Slavic mythology. Gods and goddesses. It is believed that Slavic mythology can trace its roots back to the Proto-Indo-European period, and perhaps as far back as the Neolithic era. The early Proto-Slav tribes split into 3 Slavic divisions, and the countries in which they reside are divided into 3 main sections. There are the East Slavs, the West Slavs, and the South Slavs. The East Slavs, which include those living in Belarus, Russia, and Ukraine. The West Slavs, which include those living in the Czech Republic, Poland, and Slovakia. The South Slavs, which are people who live in Bosnia-Herzegovina, Bulgaria, Croatia, Macedonia, Montenegro, Serbia, and Slovenia. Each group created its own distinct set of localized mythologies, deities, and rituals based upon the beliefs and legends of the original Proto-Slavs. Some of the Eastern Slavic traditions see some overlap with the gods and practices of their neighbors in Iran. Perun. Perun is the god of lightning and thunder. Also the god of war. He is the patron of the Druzhina. He is the etymological and functional continuator of the Proto-Indo-European thunder god Perkunas, and shares many characteristics with other thunder gods worshipped by Indo-Europeans. He is mentioned most notably in Primary Chronicle, where a gray-haired and golden-mustached statue of Perun is described in temple on Old Kiev Hill. His name survived in spells and in proper names. Armed usually with an axe, hammer, or spear, he fights chaos demons. His figure is preserved in folklore primarily in the form of Saint Elijah and Saint George. The Celtic, Irish, Norse, Anglo-Saxon, Baltic, Slavic, and Hindu thunder gods are probably all connected, and descended from an ancient thunder god worshipped 6,000 years ago. The Germanic thunder god, Thor. Greek and Roman, Zeus and Jupiter. The Celtic thunder god, Tyrannus. The Slavic thunder god, Perun. The Baltic thunder god, Perkunas. And the Vedic Hindu thunder god, Indra. Veles. Veles is a god with many functions, which makes it difficult to compare him to any other deity. He is attributed with being a chthonic god. He rules over the underworld, where the souls of the dead find their way, where he leads them out into the meadows. He is also attributed with the care of cattle, which symbolize wealth. He also patronizes artists, especially poets, and is the god of magic. His name is most likely etymologically related to death. His animal incarnations are bull or ox, dragon or zmei. His figure is preserved in folklore primarily in the form of Saint Nicholas and the devil. Daysbog. Daysbog is the Slavic god of sun and god of fire. He is the son of Perun. His name means, god of giving. He was considered and as ancestor of all Slavs, because at this time it was rare for grandson-granddaughter to meet their grandparents. There was belief that each winter he is visiting people's homes and gifting gold to good people. That belief passed into Christianity. During Christianization, his cult was exchanged with cult of Saint Sava, while Daysbog became Lame Daba, the most powerful demon in hell. Reasons: he was demonized, possibly because his cult was the strongest in Serbia, or because he was considered also as god of Nav, Slavic underworld and world of dead. Yerovit Urila, or also known as Jerovit Hirovit, or Urilia Runa. Urila is an Old Slavonic name of the god of sun, vegetation, fertility and spring, also associated with war and harvest. His father is Perun, the god of lightning and thunder. But Jarilo was kidnapped shortly after his birth by his father's rival, Veles, the god of underworld. He brought Jarilo to the underworld of Nauia and raised him, which caused Jarilo to take on some of the trickster traits of Veles. When he grew up, Jarilo was often considered similar to Loki in Norse mythology in some ways because of this. He is classically seen as a young blond man with a golden shield, 8 swords, and a white horse. The horse typically symbolized a young groom, which relates to Jarilo's role as a fertility god, combined with his role as a war god. He in himself is a unique mix of both the domestic, love and agriculture, and the violent, which paints him as yet again an important character for balance. Izbarashets. Zvarashets is a Slavic god of fire, son of Izbarag, one of the few pan-Slavic gods. He is most likely identical with Radagast. less often identified with Daysbog. Dola. Dola is the personification of fate and destiny. Dola was assigned to a person at birth and stays with him for the rest of his life. It may be inherited from ancestors. It is generally invisible. They can appear in the guises of a god, cat, man, mouse, or woman. They have their own preferences. And they would hound you if you made choices that were not planned by fate. Dola can also ruin someone's life. This spirit can be inherited from father to son. But brothers have different Dolas. Dola is personification of good fortune. Netala is the personification of bad fortune. Madzimilia. Madzimilia is a personification of the earth and is probably the oldest deity in Slavic mythology. Appearing mainly in East Slavic texts but remaining in most Slavic languages. She is also called Mati Sira Zimilia, meaning, damp Mother Earth, or moist Mother Earth. Her identity later blended into that of Mokosh, the mother goddess. Rod. Rod is a figure spirit or deity often mentioned in Minor East and South Slavic texts, generally along with Rushanitsi. He is the god of the family, ancestors, fate, kin, and giving birth. Perhaps as the supreme god. Among southern Slavs, he is also known as Sud, meaning, the judge. Rashanitsi, givers of life. Zudanitsi, givers of fate. And Narishnitsi, givers of destiny. They are female spirits or deities of fate. Related to pregnancy, motherhood, marriage, and female ancestors. Often quoted together with Rod. They appear in the plural or as a single entity. In East and South Slavic sources they are often mentioned together with Rod. Their main function is to determine the child's fate for life. Then they leave an invisible mark on his forehead. Man's fate was symbolized by the thread of life, on the length of which, measured by the Rashanitsi, depended the length of man's life. Bloodless sacrifices were offered to them. They are usually mentioned 3 together, but sometimes up to 9 together, of which one was a queen or singular. They are related to Dola but it is not known on what terms. In Poland they were worshipped as Zors, or Auras. Zoria. Zoria is the goddess of the dawn, and the daughter of the sun god Dazbog. In different tales, Zoria has between 1 and 3 different aspects, appearing at different times of the day. Her main responsibility is to open the gates of her father's palace in the morning, to let him free at dawn and travel through the skies, then to close the gates after him at dusk. In the morning, she is Zoria Utranyaya, dawn, the goddess of the morning star. At the evening, she is Zoria Vechernaya, dusk, the goddess of the evening star. And the otherwise unnamed Zoria, the goddess of midnight. Zoria lives in Buyan, a legendary paradisaical island east of the sunrise. She is also the wife of Perun, the Slavic god of thunder. In this role Zoria dresses in long veils and rides into battle with Perun, letting down her veil to protect her favorites among the warriors. In Serbian tales she is the wife of the moon, Maisads. She shares most of her characteristics. She is often depicted as the sister of the sun, the moon, and as Zvezda, the morning star, with which she is sometimes identified. As Zvezda, Utranika, or Danica, is the personification of the morning star or planet Venus as seen in the sky before sunrise. Svetovid, Sventovid, Svantovid, is the god of abundance and war, and the chief god of the Slavic tribe of the Rani, and later of all the Pelagian Slavs. His organized cult was located on the island of Rugan at Cape Arcana, where his main temple was also located. According to the descriptions of medieval chroniclers, the statue representing this god had 4 heads, a horn and a sword. And to the deity himself were dedicated a white horse, a saddle, a bit, a flag and eagles. Once a year, after the harvest, a large festival was held in his honor. With the help of a horn and a horse belonging to the god, the priests carried out divinations, and at night, the god himself rode a horse to fight his enemies. His name can be translated as Strong Lord or Holy Lord. In the past, it was often mistakenly believed that the cult of Svetovid originated from Saint Vitus. Vitus, whose name is sometimes rendered Guy or Guido, was a Christian martyr from Sicily. Triglav. Triglav, also sometimes called Troglav, is a deity in Slavic theology. He is the representation of three major Slavic gods that vary from one Slavic tribe to others. An early variation included Svarog, Perun, and Daysbog. Later Daysbog was replaced by Svetavid, or Velas. Triglav is usually described as a fusion of these gods. Radagast. Radagast is an old well-documented god of Slavic mythology. Radagast was proclaimed as the Slavic god of hospitality. According to some, he is also the god of war, fire and the four-night sky. The name Radagast can easily be etymologized as meaning something like, dear guest, or gladly guest. Viva, or Ziva, is an all-Slavic goddess of life, water, love and fertility. Although her cult is more noticeable among Western and Southern Slavs that know her as Vita. Medieval Polish sources mention her as a daughter of Sventovid and Nonsania, respectively deities of day and night, while late Polish sources call her Jazilia, great, and Krasipani, beautiful lady, that is also an ancient Slavic name for planet Venus. Ruhivat, Rugivat, or Ruyevat, is a god of the Slavic Rani worshipped in Gardek on Rugan, where his temple was located. According to Saxo, he was a war deity, also associated with the sexual sphere. His statue was made of oak wood, had a head with 7 faces, 7 swords at his belt, and an 8th in his hand. Under his lips was a nest of swallows. Chernobog and Belobog. Chernobog. His name means, black god. He is the god of darkness, evil, chaos, death and night. A deity of unpropitious fortune. The god of bad fate worshipped by the Pelagian Slavs, Belobog. Belobog is the reconstructed Slavic god of light and the sun. He is the polar opposite of Chernobog. He is the god of light, day, heroism and order. He is a deity of propitious fortune. Nia. Nia was interpreted as the Polish god of the underworld. His temple was located on Lech Hill. Divana. Divana is the goddess of wild nature, wild animals, forests, hunting and the moon worshipped by the Western Slavs. She was first mentioned in the 15th century by Jan de Lugos, who compared her to the Roman goddess Diana. In Christian folklore she may have been replaced by Our Lady of Thunder Candle. Morana is a pagan Slavic goddess associated with seasonal rites based on the idea of death and rebirth of nature. She is an ancient goddess associated with winter's death, rebirth, and dreams. In ancient Slavic rites, the death of the goddess Marzana at the end of winter becomes the rebirth of spring of the goddess Kostroma, Russian, Lada or Vesna representing the coming of spring. Strybog. Strybog is a god in Slavic mythology found in 3 East Slavic sources, whose cult may also have existed in Poland. He is most often interpreted as a god of the wind, who distributes wealth. Svarog. Svarog is a Slavic god of fire and blacksmithing, who was once interpreted as a sky god on the basis of an etymology rejected by modern scholarship. He is mentioned in only one source, the primary chronicle, which is problematic in interpretation. He is presented there as the Slavic equivalent of the Greek god Hephaestus. The meaning of his name is associated with fire. He is the father of Daysbog and Svaroshets.
Anybody got a prescription, yeah, for this love pain? Anybody got